This machine will have eyes, ears, and a voice.
This is PVP Television News. We are now returning to the motion meeting at Welshpool, where some of the county councillors are about to speak.
Right, we move on now to declarations of interest. Perhaps you could clarify this situation for us. Janet.
Just to confirm to members that a blanket dispensation has been given to everybody here, whether or not you sit on the planning committee or you're a member of the cabinet, and wherever you have a pecuniary interest, that is excused as well for today's purposes only.
Chairman, does that mean that we haven't got to declare an interest?
Janet, can you clarify?
You still need to declare the interest. I believe the form's gone round to everybody prior to today, but it's being circulated now. But you still have a dispensation that's been granted by the Standards Committee.
Beryl? Councillor Beryl Vaughan, sorry.
I wish to make my declaration in Welsh, please. Dwi'n datgan diddordeb a beth sydd yn mynd ymlaen yma heddiw yn enwedig ynglyn â'r
especially
beth ydyn ni'n edrych ymlaen sy'n tan 8.
I also say that I won't be taking part at all in the debate today, and I will therefore not be voting at the end. Thank you.
Members, you will no doubt share my concern when I tell you that in draft policy EN3, paragraph 221, although it does refer to TAN 8 and local development plans, it clearly states they will not as such form the basis for approval or refusing of any applications in Wales. So that means, members, that quite clearly they can approve applications in Wales, even though they may not comply with our policies, even though the maximum production targets now set by Welsh Government may have already been surpassed. Quite frankly, in reality, if these national policy statements remain as they currently are, they have the ability to inflict on our area just about anything they want. And there can be no doubt that this policy will encourage more and more larger applications, most of which will be for a decision by DEC, Department of Energy and Climate Change, via Infrastructure MIPU, decisions that will be made therefore in accordance with these sympathetic national policy statements. Members, I put it to you, we simply cannot stand by and accept this. We now have got to take the fight to the UK Government and try and bring about the required changes to these national policy statements as they make their way through the parliamentary process.
We are here today primarily to discuss TAN 8, and I am sure there is not one person amongst us who doesn't support the call for a thorough review of TAN 8 in all aspects. And I thank Councillors David Jones and Graham Brown for placing a motion before Council. I consider TAN 8 in its present form has the capacity to impact on mid-Wales with devastating consequences. And that is why I went on the protest rally to Cardiff last month to express my anger at the proposals facing us here in Montgomeryshire. We made our feelings very clear to First Minister Carwyn Jones that day, and it is essential those feelings are now directed to the UK Government. It is they who must also recognise their responsibility to respect our position here in Wales when finalising their Renewable Energy National Policy Statement. Unless we call for action now, Powys will be vulnerable. National policy statements are beginning their journey through the parliamentary process as we speak, and there is grave concern UK policy will override Welsh policy unless we demand an urgent redress of this situation.
The new motion.
Powys County Council calls on the Welsh Government to carry out an immediate review of TAN 8 and on the Welsh and UK governments to call a moratorium on all wind farm applications with a pending decision or in pre-application stage until the review is completed. In carrying out the review, the Welsh Government is specifically asked to consider environmental, socio-economic, community health, ecological, transportation, cultural and cumulative impacts of the construction of wind farms and the necessary infrastructures in rural Wales. Powys County Council also asks that in carrying out this review, the Welsh Government also carries out a cost-benefit analysis of wind farm energy production when compared to alternative sources of energy. Powys County Council also demands that the UK Government and the Department of Energy and Climate Change, in the development of the National Policy Statement on Renewable Energy Generation, ensures that within the policy, provision will be made to guarantee that full consideration will be given to the policies that exist in Wales at national, Welsh and local government level.
The other implications of TAN 8 have not been looked at either, and a holistic approach has never been taken, and that is what we are pressing for now. The Vale of Montgomery is a nationally designated historic landscape. It is at the moment very much as it was when the poet George Herbert looked out on it 400 years ago from his home on Montgomery Castle. It is about to be desecrated, perhaps, not through deliberate thought, but through a lack of thought, through a failure to consider the implications of a policy put together in haste.
But over the years, I've written many letters over the last 8 to 9 years about the downside of wind turbines, stating that wind turbines are the most unreliable, unpredictable and most expensive way of producing energy. And it's certainly showing on our energy bills, which come to each and every one of us. Chairman, I asked a question years ago, how were they going to get the energy to the grid? But I was told that was not up for discussion. But Chairman, it should have been for discussion. That was all a part of the TAN 8 process at the time, but we were not allowed to talk about it. Chairman, as councillors, planning meetings, we are supposed to be given a balanced view on wind energy. But Chairman, we have never had a balanced view at any planning meeting we have ever had.
If TAN 8 is not radically reviewed to enable the people of Powys to have a greater input into what happens to one of the most beautiful parts of the Principality, then the total destruction of Mid Wales will almost certainly become a reality. We already have a sword of Damocles hanging over us in the form of future massive transporters conveying parts of these gigantic wind farm units, bulldozing through our area. And we're not talking about 50 or 100, we're talking about up to 5,000 abnormal loads.
I speak today as a county councillor and I speak on behalf of the Welsh Conservative group. And at the outset, Mr Chairman, I will say that our group today will be fully supporting the amendment, the motion today as amended. What our group further wants, Chairman, is a unanimous support today from every political group on the County Council. We as a County Council need to send 3 messages. First of all, to the people of Powys, we need to send them a very clear message that we will represent their views. We also need to send a very clear message to the Welsh Government today that they need to review their TAN 8, their renewable energy policy. And we need to send a clear message to the UK Government, who will be making the decision on the larger applications and on the line out. We need to send them a message that our views should not be ignored.
Today is yet another measure of the remarkable campaign by the people of Montgomeryshire, the south of Powys and Shropshire against wind farms, hubs and pylons, a campaign that I strongly support. I, like all the other county councillors here, have received hundreds of emails, and I want to quote from this one from Ian Hubbock, who is a retired chartered electrical engineer with 50 years' experience in industrial electrical projects worldwide. He writes, "We can get some idea of how forlorn this proposal for wind farms in Powys really is by studying the effect that smothering Denmark with wind turbines over the last 20 years has had on their system. And he quotes 5 points. The dearest electricity in Europe, a severe blot on their landscape being suffered by many, probably not their politicians, network stability nightmares for their systems engineers, export of the wind farm output power to nearby Sweden and Norway, who use this cheap imported power to pump water to their storage reservoirs, and last but not least, the fact that Denmark has to import electrical power from neighbouring countries to meet demand. Surely we do not want to lumber our future generations with this.
Mr. Chairman and members, when the people that we represent, nay, the people that we serve, let us know exactly how they feel. And I concur with them absolutely that this scheme would desecrate and cripple this beautiful land of ours that we so desperately need to further the tourism industry, to create an economic well-being of the area. We will never see such industries again as there used to be in Machynlleth. 200 jobs with manufacturing. We must ensure, Chairman and members, that we boost our tourism industry as much as we possibly can.
I became a councillor to represent and help the people of Powys, and all the evidence shows that the vast majority of the electorate want TAN 8 scrapped. I therefore will be voting for this motion and urge all my fellow councillors to do the same. Thank you.
Anyone who had read TAN 8 in 2005 is surely horrified by the changes in 2011. Its original target has been exceeded fivefold, resulting in changes in the scale, extent and the size in recent proposals, which, when coupled with a system of substations, pylons and cables necessary for connection to the national grid, will cause untold disruption to local communities, landscape, tourism, with little compensating benefit to the local population, for the power will be mainly for export.
Members, we have a duty as councillors and therefore as guardians of Powys County to protect our countryside for now and for the generations to come. Of course, no one wants to see the lights go out in the future. Of course, we must consider renewable energy, but all forms of renewable energy, not just wind energy, which may not be the best, the most practical, or the most cost-effective. Whilst I welcome the First Minister's recent statement, I do not think it goes far enough. There is no doubt that TAN 8 is heavily biased, and by its own admission heavily biased, in favour of wind energy.
As Chair of Rights of Way at Powys County Council, my committee and the workforce of this department have worked hard to improve and maintain the rights of way used by walkers, bikers and horse riders. People come to Wales to enjoy our outstanding countryside. It's called tourism. Would they come to view badly positioned giant wind turbines? I don't think so.
Chairman, the words of Carwyn Jones 10 days ago gave us slight hope that the people of Powys will be listened to in this whole debate around wind farms and wind energy. I know that Roger Williams, the MP for Brecon and Radnor, has always voiced his concerns over TAN 8 and the lack of the adequate safeguards that were built into it when it was developed. And I really hope, even though perhaps we're slightly at the 11th hour, that the UK and the Welsh governments will recognise what they're in danger of allowing to happen to beautiful mid-Wales, and which one has to hope that surely was never their intention when they introduced TAN 8. If it was, God forbid them.